It's funny as Hawks fans, if I had a nickel for every time a lowly Victorian team had 2 picks in the top 4 and let us draft an absolutely generational forward at pick 5, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not a lot, but it's weird that it's happened twice. Because in 2004, Richmond took Brett Deledio and Richard Tambling, an absolute weapon, and a guy whose highlight reel pre-draft didn't quite match the output he would go on to have. And there's an argument to be made that North Melbourne did the same. Colby McKercher looks like an absolute stud, and Zane Dersma currently has not had the output that his pre-draft highlights would claim him to have. Meanwhile, we picked up, of course, Bud at pick 5, and we got Nick Watson with pick 5 in the 23 draft, and the Wizard is the man that I want to talk about for a variety of reasons. Number 1, he taught me a very valuable lesson as a content creator, and number 2, just how good he's been in a way that we can fully say stuff the haters, or an even stronger word, but we'll go with stuff this early in a video. Just to give you the rundown on how the Wizard has performed so far and where he sat last year, he's played 43 games, kicked 61 goals, averages just a tick over 10 disposals. He was the number 18 rated general forward last year, the 5th rated general forward for all players under the age of 22. He was the 3rd rated Hawks forward and the 8th rated Hawk in 2025. And granted, he's not the finished product yet. To suggest that he is would be ridiculous, but he has gone up by 11 goal increments. He had 25 in season 1 and 36 last year. Of course, by natural means of development, that means he's going to kick 47 plus this year, and that could very well earn him an All-Australian blazer. And he actually could kick more, absolutely. But like I said, he's not the finished product yet. There are still things that he can do to go to the next level. Granted, I would say that finding more of the footy, averaging 10 disposals in both seasons, more CBAs, he went from 1.8 to 2.6 handball receives last year, while going from 0.2 to 1.5 centre bounce attendances, and his marks and inside 50s actually dropped from 3.1 to 2 inside 50s, went from 1.3 to 1.0, which means that there are still parts of his game that absolutely need developing. The next part, though, that is absolutely frightening for what he's able to do moving forward is actually his goal averages in big spots. He's played 5 finals and kicked 11 goals. And amongst his contemporaries, outside of Bud, that matches nearly anyone. He and Jack Gunston both kicked 11 in their first 5 finals. Roughhead kicked 5, Rioli kicked 5, and Luke Bruce kicked 7, which means the Wizard is putting himself amongst very good company. And of course, as we know, that a lot of those guys were as young or around the same age that Watson is now, which reads brilliantly for him. I'm not suggesting that he is going to go past all of those players, but in terms of a point of comparison at the same time in their career, it reads really well. But let's give a bit of a history lesson and see where he stands. I went and had a look at some of the players that are rated in the top 40 amongst general forwards. Those that either kicked as many goals as he did last year, maybe a little bit less, but are around at his mark for a particular reason. I had a look at guys like Jack Higgins, Jamie Elliott, Toby Green, Bailey Fritsch, Charlie Cameron, Paul Curtis, Josh Rochelle, his own teammate Jack Ginnivan, Kai Lohman at Brisbane, and Bobby Hill. If you include Watson in that, they are 11 players. And if I told you amongst all 11 of those players that Nick Watson ranked 3rd for goals, how impressed would you be? Just sit with that for a second. How impressed would you be? Can you try and guess which 2 players have kicked more than him in their first 43 games? Well, great news. It's a trick question. None of them have. None of those 10 players in their first 43 games have kicked more goals than Nick Watson has so far in his career. And considering if you take that 11 goals in 5 finals away, he's kicked 50 goals from 38 games. That is just under 1.3 goals a game, whereas we know that goes to 2.2 in finals, something that those players, again, as young as Watson is, weren't able to do. Some of them, like Paul Curtis, for example, just hasn't had the opportunity to play finals because he was drafted to North, but I digress. Watson's record stacks up amongst his peers brilliantly. And fun fact for you, if I throw that group, because it's only me editing, if I throw that group of 10 back up there, second on the list, actually, we'll start with 3rd is Jamie Elliott with 54, which is quite incredible. But there's one player on that list that kicked 60 goals in their first 43 games, just one off Watson. And it's Jack Ginnivan. Granted, all 43 of those games were at Collingwood, and he played a much higher up-the-ground role in 2025, but I think it's really cool that the 2 players on that list to kickstart are Hawthorn players, of course, now. Now, amongst his Hawthorn peers, Watson ranks in a really decent spot. Luke Breust's first 43 games garnering 81 goals, by the way, is legitimately crazy. But he leads the way. Gunston 79, Franklin 78, Watson 61, Rioli 45, Puopolo 32, and Jared Roughhead 26. I would like to apologise profusely because Ruff gets stitched up there. He started his career as a defender. I will defend him on that. I also feel like it would be weird if I didn't include him, but maybe I just did a little too much anticipating comments, but that's why Roughhead is as low as he is. And even though he is called the Wizard, coined by Cal Toomey, by the way, not himself and not fans. Cal Toomey did, one of the best in the AFL draft space, if not the best, of course, with the access that he gets to club information. But how does he rank next to Jeff Farmer's first 43 games? Well, not quite as good. Farmer's got him by 10, but considering that I would rank Farmer as a top 5 small forward of all time, that's a pretty good benchmark to have. I would have Farmer, Breust, Milne, Betts, and you can kind of toss around the 5th option if you want. I might let you do that at home, absolutely. But I'm definitely going with Cyril. I don't care how biased it is. That's kind of what this channel is for. We already know Watson is ahead of Rioli on 45. We know he doesn't quite have Farmer. We know Breust has kind of kicked him a little bit with 81 and leading the pack. So what about the other two, Betts and Milne? Well, he's definitely got Eddie covered for sure, but he doesn't have Milne covered, and that 93 number by Milne is actually insane. Let's be honest. At this point, the top 5 that I have seen so far, you're looking at Milne in 1st, Breust in 2nd, Watson 3rd, Rioli 4th, and Betts 5th. That would be insane company to keep. And given how damaging he can be when the ball hits the ground, he is the epitome of an excitement machine, which Hawthorn fans, of course, love to see. And considering we've got Ginnivan, Moore, McDonald, and even Sam Butler who might be able to work their way up the ground, Watson is basically used in sort of the most up-to-date generational role that Cyril is. Yes, he went to centre bounces, not a lot of them, but to break up the monotony of Mitchell, Hodge, Lewis, Sewell, Burgoyne, these guys that were around the CBAs quite a lot, he was there to add the spark, and he might be able to do the same in 25 and moving forward. But as we know, Cyril did not need 20 disposals a game like a Dylan Moore in order to take the piss, and clearly Watson doesn't either. Again, I'm not trying to say that he is Cyril, but what I'm trying to say is that it can't go understated just how good this bloke is. And just to appease the older Hawthorn fans here, what do you think Hudson and Dunstall did in their first 43 games? Well, if I told you that Dunstall was 132, you would probably be impressed by that. Just over 3 goals a game. And I kind of just feel like going, and here's Hudson's number, and just letting you read that. But just in case you are watching this or listening to it without watching, that number says 224, which means if you combine Jason Dunstall and Luke Breust, Hutto beats both of them. Yep, both of them by 19 goals. It's actually crazy. I was going to say a word that rhymes with trucked, but it's actually crazy just how good Hutto was, obviously. But my final point on the Wizard as we move forward and can hopefully appreciate him not only in the absolutely aura-farming new number of the 5, of course, led cheekily by guys like Peter Crimmins, Sam Mitchell, and I loved the cheekiness of Daniel Harford growing up as well. We can't get sucked into this conversation of, yeah, but. And it's one of the more frustrating ways that people debate and argue. And look, I'm not making this a political conversation by any means, but yeah, but is kind of been the basis of US and has kind of worked its way into world politics for a long period of time. I have a problem with something, and instead of someone going, all right, let's discuss that, they go, yeah, but I have a problem with you, and nothing actually gets solved. It basically means I'm not the biggest fan of the color red. Yeah, but green sucks. Okay, but that wasn't what we were talking about in the first place. That's what I want to avoid with the Watson conversation. I think Nick Watson is a superstar, or at least he's going to hit that trajectory sooner than most people think. I really do. And what I want to avoid for the sake of especially fan happiness is so many people of other clubs are going to knock him down for the celebrations. Now, granted, Isaac Kako, Essendon fans have quietened up real quick on Watson because they've got a celebrator. And although North Melbourne fans aren't really outwardly arrogant, I don't believe you may have run into some. I have not. But Lockie Doveston is going to get the Watson treatment by a lot of other fans. And as Hawthorn fans, and I can almost guarantee that I, to take the piss out of my missus and her brother, will do the whole, you don't like it when Ginnivan and Watson do it, don't love it when Doveston does it, all in good fun. But the one thing we really need to avoid with Watson, as we absolutely fawn over the quality of what this young man brings to the table, is to say, yeah, but he's not Cyril. Yeah, but he's not Bruce. That point of comparison is the thief of joy, as they say, is not fun. He, Guinea, Moore, McDonald, Butler, Impey when he goes forward. The Hawks are a team of vibes. Whether you like it or not, that is the way they play their footy. And if you want to be upset about it, good luck to you. Personally, I'm not. I love emotion. I love passion. And if it means that their way of expressing themselves is, and the jumper I'm wearing are better than you, and they prove it, I don't really see a problem with that. I really don't. But we need to enjoy this young man for as long as we can. And for as long as he's a Hawk, and between you and me, that better be forever. But I want to finish off, if I can, somewhat narcissistically and talk about the lesson that Watto taught me. Because as a mock draft or a draft creator, I never mocked Watson to the Hawks. Not for his talent, but because I, rightly or wrongly, am more of a fit guy. Who is the best fit? And especially in the last 3 months of the mock draft, as the Jack Ginnivan rumours heated up, we already had more McDonald and Ginnivan. Watson as a fit, just on fit, didn't make a lot of sense. I was mocking guys like Riley Sanders and Daniel Curtin to the Hawks a lot, even though I would have very comfortably had Watson ahead of those two if it was a power ranking style. And what he has absolutely proven to me in a big way, which is why I really liked the Doveston to Melbourne fit and why I really do like it to North Melbourne, is that sometimes overwhelming A-grade talent, you just bring into your club and make it work. And he has. And I believe will continue to do so. We love the Wizard, and so we should. So that's it, guys. Comment below, let me know, like the video if you like the video, subscribe to join the Daz Talks Hawks family. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.